So before we get started with today's lesson, let's do a quick review on solving equations. So here we have 7 times x equals 63. To cancel out multiplication, we want to divide. So divide both sides by 7 to get x by itself. That gives you x equals 9. In the next example, we have 11 times x equals negative 121. Cancel out multiplication with division. Divide both sides by 11. Because we're dividing a negative and a positive, I'm going to draw my tic-tac-toe. So a negative divided by a positive gives you a negative answer. So you get x equals negative 11. So let's quickly review what we talked about last class. For ratios to be proportional, they have to be equivalent. So let's start by checking and seeing what we have here. So we have Maria made 2 batches of fruit punch. The table at the right shows how many quarts of juice she used for each batch. Write an equation that relates the proportional quantities. Alright, so we have apple juice and grape juice. We're going to compare grape juice to apple, so the y to the x. So we'll say 8 over 5. In the second example, we have 16 to 10. Let's make those into decimals and see what we get. So 8 divided by 5 gives you 1.6. And 16 divided by 10, because we're dividing by 10, that's the same thing as swooping once to the left. It also gives you 1.6. So because both of these ratios are 1.6, this does represent a proportional relationship. So we're going to get what's called the constant of proportionality by dividing the y and the x. So in this particular example, that gave us 1.6. Therefore, an equation that represents this relationship would be y equals 1.6x. So again, the 1.6 is our constant of proportionality. Alright, so let's look at the convince me. How does the equation change if the amount of grape juice is the independent variable, the x, and the amount of apple juice is the dependent variable, the y? Let's try to calculate this based on what we have in this table up here. So for the first example, we will say 5 divided by 8 and see what that gives us. So when you divide that out, that gives you 0.625. Let's try the other one. We'll say 10 divided by 16, and that also gives you 0.625. Therefore, this time we're going to have y equals 0.625x. So the equation y equals kx is what we're really focusing on. K represents that constant of proportionality. Let's look at the try it on page 105. A florist sells a dozen roses for $35.40. I'm going to highlight that. She sells individual roses for the same unit cost. Write an equation to represent the relationship between the number of roses, x, and the total cost of the roses, y. How much would 18 roses cost? So we're going to start by writing a proportionality equation, y equals kx. Let's determine what k is going to represent here. So we're going to say 3540, and because we know a dozen is 12. We'll divide that by 12 to calculate the unit cost. So that gives you 2.95. So we're going to say y is equal to 2.95. We're going to plug in, because x represents the number of roses, we'll plug in 18 for x and see what that gives us. Remember, parentheses are another way to show multiplication. So we got 53.1. So if you write that as money, that would be $53.10. To determine if ratios are proportional, all you have to do, if you look at the example up here, they divided the cost, so in this case 25, by the number of rides, 1. That gave them 25. They tried again, 30 divided by 2, and they got 15. Because those ratios are not equal, this would not be proportional. Let's look at balloon A. So we'll say 9 divided by 1. That gives you 9. 13 divided by 2 gives you 6.5. Because these are not the same constants, we're going to get rid of A. That's not proportional. Let's try B. 4 divided by 1 is 4. 8 over 2 is 4. And 12 over 3 is also 4. Therefore, B would be proportional. So the answer here would be balloon B. Now let's look at a few problems like you're going to see in the practice and problem solving. So the equation below represents a proportional relationship between x and y. What is the constant of proportionality? So it's y equals kx, and the constant is represented by k, or in this example, 2 over 7. So your answer here would be 2 over 7. The equation p equals 4s represents the perimeter p of a square with side lengths s. What is the perimeter of a square with side lengths of 5 feet? So what we're going to do, so we have the equation p equals 4s. In this case, 4 represents our k, the constant of proportionality. All you have to do is plug in 5 for s, and 4 times 5 gives you 20. In a certain chemical, the ratio of zinc to copper, so zinc to copper, is 3 to 13. A jar of the chemical contains 468 grams of copper. How many grams of zinc does it contain? Let's divide these two numbers and see what that gives us to calculate our scale factor. So we'll do 468 divided by 13, and that gives you 36. Now take this 3 and multiply that by 36, and we get 108. Therefore, your answer here would be 108 grams. In this example here, we're comparing CDs or DVD cases. We're looking at this comparison here. So the height of 6 DVD cases is 108 millimeters. Let's take those two numbers, 108, and divide that by 6 to calculate the K, the constant of proportionality. So that gives you 18. So let's write our equation. Y is equal to kx, and this time we're calculating the height of 14 cases. So we're going to say y is equal to k, which is 18, times x, which in this example would be 14, and that gives you a height of 252 millimeters when you multiply those two numbers together.